Hey guys, for today's video, I'll put together another quartz watch, but this time with the Miyota 2305 movement. The 2305 is a good option for those who want a day-date complication using an NH36 dial and case. In order for the 2305 movement to fit in an NH36 case, I had to design a movement holder from scratch and 3D printed it. So let's jump right into the parts list. Here is a 40mm Submariner style case. You could use whatever case you want as long as it was originally for the NH series of movements. It's got an open case back, which will allow you to look inside. Even though it's not a mechanical movement, it's still kind of cool to be able to look inside and see what is powering the actual watch. If you want to hide the fact that it's a quartz, you can always get a closed case back. Those are available as well. Next, we have the actual movement itself. It is a Miyota 2305 quartz movement. It has a 3-year battery life. And of course, it has the day and date complication that is on here. And next, we will need a movement holder. So I designed and created this because there isn't one publicly available that you can download or buy. So I had to create this from scratch. So I'll make a link to the STL files in the description if you're interested in 3D printing some of them for your own personal use. I'll quickly show you how it fits onto the movement. There, it just kind of pops on and will sit inside the case with the movement and hold it from moving around. Next, we need a dial. So this is a 28.5mm NH36 dial, which has the wider date window to accommodate the day and date of this complication. So this would have originally sat on top of a NH36 movement, which had the day and date complication as well. And as you can see, the 2305 movement will also fill up the date window as well. I already removed all the dial feet from this dial because we are attaching it with double-sided tape. This is a blank or sterile dial that I just put my logo on. Finally, we need some hands. These are for quartz movements. So typically they're like 1.2 millimeters for the hour hand, 0.7 for the minute, and 0.17 for the second hand. To attach the dial to the movement, we're going to use some double-sided tape, and you can already see that there's not a lot of area that you can put the double-sided tape other than the edges, because the center part of the movement is consumed by the day and date wheels. So you can just put them on the corners there. There's some plastic, some gray plastic, so that's where I usually put the double-sided tape. Just make sure that it's not interfering with the date wheel. Finally, we peel off the backing to the double-sided tape to expose the sticky part of it. All we have to do now is put the dial on top. And what I do is I use the crown stem to help me align with the 3 o'clock, because this is a 3 o'clock crown. And we put the pinions of the movement directly in the center of the dial. And once you have it in place, you can just push it down. You don't have to be like super accurate because, you know, it's double-sided tape. You can always kind of maneuver a little bit. It's not crazy glued in place. With the dial attached to the movement, we're going to put it inside the watch case to see how it is in terms of alignment. This is also an opportunity to put your 3D printed movement holder inside to see how it fits as well. I'm going to temporarily attach the crown to the crown stem to test fit it. I'm not going to cut it just yet, but I'm going to put it in there and I'm just going to measure it. But before we do that, let's just quickly do a sample test. So insert it into the case opening and then push it into the movement. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit long, but that's okay. We're going to trim it later and just kind of look at it for alignment and see how it is. I'm going to also test the case back on it as well. There are 3 tabs on the movement holder that you can trim depending on the thickness of your case. So with the watch fully assembled, you can see how it looks. I'm just making sure that the bezel insert is aligned with the dial itself. So it looks pretty good. Now it's time to attach the hand. So let's start off with the hour hand. So what we want to do is make sure that our watch or our movement is at midnight. So keep on turning the crown and crown stem until it flicks over till the next day. So it's on the 17th now. Once it starts getting over on the 18th, once it starts to roll over, just do it slowly. It clicked over, so that's midnight. We know that that is 12 o'clock right now, and this is where we want to mount our hour hand. We're going to use a little putty here to lift up the hour hand, and we're just going to drop it on the pinion. And you could use a toothpick to help you guide it into the hole. I didn't need to do that, but now we put it under the little hand pusher, and we'll use the toothpick to kind of move it or adjust it slightly before we push it all the way down onto the pinion of the movement. So here we go. And as you notice, as you push down, sometimes the hands will move. So again, correct it just a little bit. Try to get it on the pinion all the way first before you push it all the way down. So I just kind of, sometimes I'll just do a light little tap, make sure it's on, and I will just adjust it and then push it down a little again. And finally it went in. Pretty good there. And I think that worked out. And it's at the 12 o'clock now. And we want to make sure that it is level, and we can go one full revolution, as you can see, and go back to 12, and then we'll mount the minute hand. With the minute hand, I'm going to use this manual hand presser here, and again, holding it down or holding it in place with the little putty, and I'm trying to push it onto the pinion. For some reason, this one is not going on, but eventually right there, I think I got it in there, right there. So it's finally on, and I am going to finish it off on the this apparatus here, just to make sure that I got it on straight. So this one, when you push down, it comes down straight. So it will help kind of correct the hand if it's on at an angle. So it's gonna push it down there, and I think that is good. And finally, we have the second hand. Again, I'm going to be using this manual hand pusher here, and I got lucky because I got it in on the first shot. And with the second hand mounting, you don't really need to care about where you mount it. It could be at any position. And then I'm going to finish it off on this little apparatus thing. So now with all the hands installed, we can test to make sure that it is running. All you have to do is push it in, and nothing is more satisfying than seeing the tick of the second hand and knowing that everything is working. Obviously, you want to test it out, make sure that your hands aren't colliding with each other. So I'm setting the date there, but just make sure everything is level and working correctly, that you can go like one full 24-hour revolution before you case up the thing. It looks pretty good for now. So now what we're going to do is remove the stem and crown from the movement. So what I typically do is put it upside down on this low profile movement holder that I 3D printed, and you push the little tab there and the crown stem should come out, and there it is. And just checking to make sure everything is aligned. And then what we're going to do before we case it up is we're going to put a blower on it, just get out all the dust and debris, because that will bother the hell out of you if it's under the glass when you fully assemble everything. So I will put a blower on the case as well. Sometimes particles will also get into that. You may want to use some microfiber on the glass on the inside too if you want. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to cut the crown stem. I don't think I showed a video on how I measured it, but it was roughly about 1 millimeter, I think. It wasn't a lot to cut off. So what I'm going to do here is show you how I cut it. So these are some metal nippers that I have, and I will need a piece of masking tape. So I'm just going to eyeball it. That's roughly about a millimeter. So I'm just going to put it under the calipers there, and I'm going to tape over it. And you're probably wondering why I'm doing this, but I'm doing this because I want to prevent the pieces from flying everywhere. So I'm just going to, when I put the tape over it, it'll just hold everything in place, and then I just clip. And then when I lift off the tape, you could probably see the little piece of uh, the crown stem that's stuck onto the tape. So we're done. And then what you want to do is you want to file that crown stem when you get a chance. Reattach the crown onto your newly cut crown stem, and to make sure it goes on tight, you can use some Loctite, blue Loctite, but I'm just going to friction fit it in place. So I have a pair of pliers here. I'm just going to clamp down on it. It allows me to put a little bit more pressure onto the crown stem. That's usually good enough for me. We're going to flip it over, and we are going to stick the crown stem into the movement here lightly, and then attach or put in the movement casing ring to hold everything in place. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it should fit just fine. And there you see. And next we want to put on the gasket. So this is the gasket here. It's a bit dry, so I'm going to take it out and I'm going to grease it. So I have this little blue spongy thing which has a little bit of oil, I think, on it. And then what we're going to do is just put it inside this container here. And then we're going to close it up and give it a few twists. And that should be enough grease onto the gasket. And of course, this is what gives your watch its water resistant or waterproof ability. So it's always good to keep it nice and greased up, so it's not drying, and it will perform a lot better. And we want to make sure that it goes into the channel for that. And then we're just going to screw down the case back. And I think this is really cool because it's an open case back. You can look inside, and if you don't remember what kind of battery it uses, you can just look. And then I'm just going to push in the crown stem all the way, and hopefully I measured correctly, and I can just screw in the crown. So I think it is. I think it's the perfect length. So I was able to turn it all the way down. So I'm going to make sure the case back is on nice and tight. So I'm going to use this rubber ball tool. It should put enough friction to tighten it up. I don't need it on like super tight or anything, and that's good enough. And this is what the watch looks like when it's completed. So what I usually do is run through some checks, like whether I could set the time, the date, etc., to make sure everything is working before I attach any bracelets or straps. And I'm going to set the time here. And overall, you just want to do some final checks. So here's the finished watch. I attached a bracelet onto it, and I think it looks pretty good. If you want to build a quartz watch and need to have the day and date complication, then the Miyota 2305 is the perfect movement because it does fit into a NH35, 36, 38 case. Granted, you have the movement holder. Anyways, that's it for this video. Hopefully it gives you some ideas or inspirations for your next watch build. Comment, like, share, or subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.